Good morning, everyone. I am meteorologist James Longwith with Dynamic Weather Agency LLC, and today we're going to be talking about that next upcoming major winter storm, this Alberta Clipper system that's going to be moving its way out of Canada into the upper plains in the upper Midwest. More about the timing and how much snowfall with that event a little bit later on in this video. But first, before we could get into today's video, I do want to encourage you guys to hit that like button down below, and also be sure to subscribe to this channel for more weather related videos like this. Also share this video with your friends and family, which will help grow this channel. Also be sure to check us out on social media, and be sure to send us some of your weather related photos and videos that we might share in our next video. The links to our social media pages can be found below down in that description. Also, be sure to check us out at our website, dynamicweatheragency.com, for more weather-related information. And at last but not least, check out our Patreon page to help support this channel so I could continue to make weather-related content like this, or some storm chasing videos like you can see down below, and help fund some of our research efforts here at Dynamic Weather Agency LLC. We have many different packages and tiers ranging from $1 to $20 that'll help support this channel with many different perks and exclusive content for our Patreon subscribers. Again, the links are down below in the description. Now, as we take a look at our current national radar, for the most part, we're still seeing pretty calm conditions across much of the U.S. Mostly, we're just seeing some rain conditions down in southern Florida. But as we take a look at parts of the Northwest, this morning, again, we're seeing some of those rain conditions continuing to occur in parts of Washington and Oregon, for Portland and Seattle. Still seeing some heavy rain conditions that's been lasting for at least the last week and will still continue to persist for the next couple of days. And we're still seeing some of those snow conditions occur in some of those higher elevations of those mountainous regions in the Northwest. And this will continue to persist even through the next 72 hours. Now, taking a look at satellite imagery, this is water vapor. This is measuring the amount of water content in our atmosphere. But as we take a look at the western U.S., and I'm going to highlight this with my laser, take a look at this cloud formation that we have right here along the west coast. And it almost resembles kind of an S shape, or a leaf, and this is what we call a baroclinic leaf. And this is basically our next low pressure system that we're going to be looking for to undergo cyclogenesis. And this system is going to begin to move its way off into Canada, kind of track a west to east movement, and then eventually dive its way south into the upper Great Plains and the upper Midwest. And this is going to be our next snow producer. As we take a look at our national forecast for the next 72 hours, and then as we take a look at that Pacific Northwest, as we've been mentioning, that atmospheric river, that we've been mentioning in our previous videos, is going to continue to persist basically today through Wednesday. And as we saw on our water vapor imagery, we did see this strong integrated water vapor transport that will continue through today with a focus on the Oregon coastal range and the Cascades before beginning a slow ease tonight as the system continues to push off to the east. And this is going to produce some exceptional precipitation near the coast and remain fairly heavy for parts of the northern Rockies and parts of Idaho and Montana, as you're going to see some of those heavy snowfall totals in parts of some of that region too today, as we take a look at our snowfall map a little bit later on in today's video. And then as we move into the eastern Great Lakes, up into Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, in parts of western New York, we're expecting to see some lake effect snow with a upper level shortwave that is currently over Lake Superior that will cross southern Ontario this afternoon and will add to some instability with the westerly flow over Lake Ontario and the southwesterly flow over Lake Erie. And all of that is going to create some snow banding that is expected to develop later on today, with some possible heavy snow rates with some of that increased instability with that shortwave today. And as we look into Wednesday and Thursday, that atmospheric river that we talked about, that baroclinic leaf, is going to continue to push its way, inward into the Pacific Northwest, moving its way into Washington, into the British Columbia coast by tonight, crossing the Canadian Rockies, and then pushing its way into the Canadian Prairie. And then this low is going to eventually dive its way to southeast into Minnesota on Thursday morning. From there, this low is expected to kind of stall over the region for a little bit. And then as we move into Thursday night, this low is going to continue to deepen in the area and would feature a rain mix of precipitation within that warm sector of this low pressure system. And then we're expecting to see some lake enhancement of precipitation in Minnesota off of Lake Superior with this broad calm ahead and wraparound snow Thursday, we're looking at snow probabilities are kind of moderately high, 4 inches or more across northern Minnesota and Wisconsin, with low probabilities where some of these areas could see possibility of 8 inches or more, based off of WPC, the Weather Prediction Center's guidance for snowfall. As of now, tomorrow and Thursday, ice probabilities are kind of moderate, but we're expecting to see ice accumulations, if we see any in this area, to be less than 1/10 of an inch over the next 72 hours. Now, as we take a look at our National Weather Service current winter weather hazards, we are seeing a few winter weather hazards across parts of Michigan this morning. These are set to expire by 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we do have some isolated winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in parts of the Pacific Northwest and some of those areas that are seeing snowfall and some of those higher elevations. Now, taking a look at our National Weather Service current flood watches and warnings, we do have some flood warnings affecting parts of the Mid-Atlantic and parts of the lower Mississippi Valley, but we mostly want to focus on some of these flood watches and flood warnings in the Pacific Northwest. And as we continue to take a look at the Pacific Northwest, we have these flood watches and these flood warnings, and these are still in effect today and are expected to be in effect until Wednesday morning. As we take a look at our quantitative day 1 through 3 precipitation forecast, just take a look at some of these rainfall totals. Some of these totals are 4 to 5 inches with some isolated areas that could see 7 to 10 inches of liquid precipitation over the next 1 to 3 days. Now, continuing looking at our National Weather Service's current hazards, taking a look at our high wind warnings and high wind watches, taking a look at Montana, western portions of North Dakota, South Dakota, and parts of eastern and central Wyoming. We do have some high wind watches and high wind warnings in effect for today. And then as we take a look at our futurecast wind gusts in these areas, just take a look at some of these wind gusts. So if wind gusts greater than 60 miles per hour across parts of Montana, Great Falls, wind gusts up to 62 miles per hour, Lewistown, 60 miles per hour, Billings, 46 miles per hour. Those are some strong wind gusts that we could see with this system as this new low pressure system begins to move in, and it's going to be tightening this pressure gradient across the region, creating some of these very strong wind gusts. As we take a look at our winter storm severity index for the next 3 days, or day 1, we see some moderate to major impacts in some of those higher elevations in the northwest. So take a look at day 2, again seeing similar conditions, but we start seeing some of those moderate to minor impacts in parts of North Dakota with the snowfall with this next system that begins to move its way in. And then as we move into day 3, this is Thursday, you can see some of those minor impacts impacting parts of Minnesota with this next low pressure system that begins to move its way through, creating some of that snowfall across the upper Great Plains and the upper Midwest. Now, as we take a look at our 72-hour forecast snow accumulations, again, you can see Pacific Northwest region, we have some of those mountain snow conditions continuing. So take a look at the interior of the upper Great Plains and the upper Midwest. You see some of that snowfall with that next system that we could see moving its way out of Canada. And then as we take a look at the Eastern Great Lakes region, the parts of New York, we are expecting some lake effect snow conditions. And then as we take a look at the Pacific Northwest, we've been mentioning the atmospheric river the past couple of videos, even into last week, and we've been mentioning, some of this moisture transport and some of these shortwave troughs that are moving through that have been creating some of these snow conditions up in these higher elevations. And snow probabilities today are going to be high for 8 inches in some of those areas of Washington and the Cascades and the Blue Mountains of Oregon. As we continue to see these conditions continue to persist over this area. And then as we mentioned too, we're expecting, in parts of the Eastern Great Lakes and parts of Western New York, for Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, again, we're expecting some of those lake effect snow conditions to, develop today, as this upper level shortwave over Lake Superior begins to move into the region, creating some instability with some of the westerly flow over the lakes and the southwesterly flow over Lake Erie. That's going to create some of these banding of lake effect snow over the area where we could see some heavy snow conditions for a short period of time that could probably reduce visibility and create some hazardous road conditions. And then, as we continue to talk about our atmospheric river, taking a look at our 300 millibar charts, we see these very strong winds over the, Pacific coast that are slamming into the, Pacific Northwest. You see this nice jet max and these strong winds just off the western coast that's, supporting some of these shortwave troughs in this low with that baroclinic leaf, and is going to ride up over this upper level ridge and then begin to dive its way south into Minnesota by Thursday. And then as we take a look at our vorticity and our shortwaves, take a look at this shortwave that's hitting the Pacific Northwest, and then take a look at this deep trough that begins to develop in parts of the central U.S. This cold pool of air that's going to be coming in, that's going to bring some of the snow into parts of the upper Great Plains and the upper Midwest. Just take a look at that deep upper level trough that's going to develop with this next system. And you can see after this shortwave, we do have a little lull in the Pacific Northwest for some precipitation, some snow across this, as we see this sharp amplitude upper level ridge that's going to begin to develop, that's going to block some of these systems from moving on in for then at least after Wednesday. But we'll probably see some more of these systems begin to develop and impact parts of the Pacific Northwest a little bit later on into early next week. Now, taking a look at one of the model solutions for this upcoming major winter storm that we can see, you can see we're expecting to see some of those high snowfalls across the Pacific Northwest. We have some of that lake effect snow that we're seeing today across parts of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. But our next system we're going to be looking for is going to be the system that's going to be bringing some of the snowfall to parts of Canada and parts of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and stuff like that. That's going to then dive its way into parts of the upper Great Plains into the upper Midwest. And you can see this nice swath of 5 to 8 inches of snow that this model is designed to paint into the pict across parts of Minnesota and parts of eastern North Dakota and South Dakota, with also some lake enhancements in parts of Minnesota. Now, as we take a look at the UK Met, we're still seeing those similar conditions in parts of the upper Great Plains and upper Midwest, still seeing that nice swath, possibly 5 to 8 inches of snow with this Alberta Clipper system. Now, taking a look at our National Weather Service's blend of models, now you can see this model is forecasting a lot lower snowfall totals than the UK and the European model. Now, with that being said, I do believe this model is under forecasting the snowfall totals just a little bit, but I do believe the European and the UK Met are just over forecasting this just a little bit too much. Now, with this system being a Alberta Clipper type system, which is a little bit different than our Gulf lows that form over the Gulf, or our Colorado low, or our Hatteras low that brings some of the heavy snowfall to the northeast. Those lows right down here, those three different lows have more moisture characteristics with them, as they are closer to a moisture source, with the southerly flow of the warm sector is able to draw more moisture and create some heavier snowfall totals. With this low being coming out of Canada, it's far away from a major moisture source. Most of that moisture is going to get precipitated out as it moves over the mountain regions over here, the Pacific Northwest. So I do believe the European model and the UK models are over forecasting snowfall totals, but I do believe this National Weather Service blend of models is under forecasting it just a little bit. We do see it picking up some of those lake enhancements with Lake Superior, which I do believe is a great possibility of stuff to happening due to probably the southerly wind, the north to south winds, or the northeast to southwest winds that'll develop as this low begins to pass on through with the long fetch and the warm lake waters that will create some weakened stability over the area for some enhancements of some snow across this region. But this is what the National Weather Service's blend of models is depicting. Again, I believe this is more of a closer resemblance of what we'll see. The UK European model, I do believe, is over forecasting it quite a bit, but this model is just under forecasting the snowfall totals just a little bit. I do believe we'll see some of those higher snowfall totals in Minnesota, where we can see some 3 to 5 inches of snow, with some areas seeing some isolated 5 to 8. And then taking a look at severe weather, we're not expecting much for severe weather over the next 5 days. Conditions are going to be quite quiet for severe weather, and the greens just aren't there for severe weather development. Again, I would like to thank you guys for checking out today's video. Be sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with your friends and family so we can help make this channel grow. If you haven't already, be sure to check us out on social media and our website, dynamicweatheragency.com. Links are down below in the description. I am meteorologist James Longwith, signing off. You have a great day.